Hi, this is Bernard Rose from Trailers from Hell, and today I want to talk to you about A Room with a View, which used to be described as being a merchant ivory film, which was, I think, somewhat inaccurate. It should really be described as a merchant ivory Jabvala film, since they always all used to work with Ruth Jabvala, who wrote all of their pictures. I think I always find it odd myself introducing this film because if you'd have asked me when this movie came out what I thought of Merchant Ivory pictures, I would probably have echoed the rude comments that Alan Parker used to make about them when he called them Laura Ashley movies in a kind of derogatory sense. Um, to which Ishmael Merchant replied, "Well, Alan, that comment will last longer than your films." Um, I think he's right. Having revisited, especially this film, A Room with a View, um, there was a lot that was misunderstood. It's hard to call a film misunderstood that got uniformly positive reviews and was nominated for multiple and even won some Oscars. I know it's hard to say it's underrated, but there was a sense of people going, ugh, what is this? What is this kind of country house nonsense, literary adaptation? But when you actually look at the movie, especially when you look at it now, um, it's brilliant and it's subtle and it's really not one of those kinds of BBC style Oscar bait movies. It's way beyond that. And I think you have to look at the identities of the people who made it. James Ivory was from California. He's still alive, actually. Merchant was Indian, and they were a couple their whole life. Ruth Jabvala, who sounds like she was Indian, but she was Jewish. Her family escaped Germany in 1939. They were really much more of a trio of outsiders than anybody realized at the time, certainly outsiders to British aristocratic life. So was Ian Forster, who wrote the original novel. They were all looking at it from an outsider's point of view. And the thing that's brilliant about the film when you look at it now is you see that all the mechanisms of oppression were filtered through the view of these three people who really understood it for real. And it's all essentially focused on the central performance of Julian Sands, who plays the kind of catalyst for disorientating and disrupting this incredibly repressed and organized group of people. And in the middle of this very organized Tea Party film, he takes all of his clothes off in a pond, and you see everything in the movie. It's a wonderful subversive moment in the middle of this very organized and polite film, and I think that's the whole point of the movie. It's the whole soul of the movie in many ways, because that's what happens to Helena Bonham Carter's character, whose debut film this was, and a very, very beautiful, subtle performance it is too, is that she is awakened by his presence. And Daniel Day-Lewis became a megastar after this film. And Julian, although he absolutely continued to work in many, many films, most notably Ken Russell's Gothic, didn't somehow hit the same level of stardom. And there is this sequence in the film which has now become very poignant where Sands' character would rather be out in the storm in the countryside, lost and walking back on his own, than taking a ride with them in their carriage and staying dry. And that he didn't just act this part, he kind of embodied it in a very profound way. But I think that this film stands as a wonderful testament, a memorial to the real spirit of Julian Sands. Merchant knew what colonialism was. He was someone who'd actually seen it firsthand. He'd seen the riots in Pakistan in 1948 and the murder and the violence when the British Empire left. Ruth Jabvala had seen what happened in Germany. A lot of her family were absolutely murdered. James Ivory, being a gay man, also had that different viewpoint on what was going on. And I think that's that's what I see when I see the film, that it has this kind of time bomb of subversion in the midst of this very restrained setting.